Hello and welcome to IBM Cognos 10.2.1, What's New with the latest release. My name is Gerald and I will be in the background answering any WebEx technical questions. If you do experience technical difficulties during or joining the WebEx session, please dial 1-866-229-3239. Please note that as an attendee you are part of a larger audience. However, due to privacy rights, we have chosen not to display the number or list of attendees to everyone on the call today. As a reminder, today's call is being recorded. We will be holding a Q&A session at the conclusion of today's presentation. However, you can submit an online question at any time throughout the presentation today by simply typing your question into the Q&A panel located on the right-hand side of your screen. Just type your question into the text field and click Send. Please keep the Send to defaulted to all panelists. With that, we invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's presentation. I would now like to introduce you to your first presenter for today. He is the software practice leader for MicroStrategies, Mr. Michael Schuckman. Mr. Schuckman, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for joining our live webinar. We have a lot of folks on the telephone, and with us in our Denville location in New Jersey, we have a couple individuals from an insurance organization as well, so they have the benefit of interrupting us live and in real time. So those on the webinar, please feel free to send some questions in. We'll try and make it as interactive as possible. Again, my name is Michael Schuckman. I'm with MicroStrategies. With me in the room also is several members of the BI team here from MicroStrategies. So depending on the complexity of the questions, I'll punt pretty quickly over to some of those guys possibly. Also on the line is Christina Hassey. Christina is a technical professional with IBM, spent the majority of her career on the business analytics and the Cognos side of the house. Actually, a legacy Cognos person as well. So our agenda today, I will provide a brief overview of MicroStrategies and give a quick detailed summary of our business analytics and optimization organization. The majority of the time, Christina will be going over what's new in 10.2.1, and then we'll wrap up with some Q&A, again, via the questions that you send in on the WebEx. In about 5 minutes, before I hand it over to Christina, we'll also do a quick survey, understand how many individuals out on the call have Cognos already and what versions you're running. So we'll let you know when that comes up in a couple of minutes. So who is MicroStrategies? This being a Cognos call, you might have thought we're MicroStrategy. We're actually two words. We have an S. We were founded 30 years ago. There's another firm that sounds like us that was founded 24 years ago that does similar things to Cognos, MicroStrategy, but that's not us. So we're an IBM partner in North America, largely Boston to D.C. is our territory. And for our 30th anniversary, we were awarded IBM's Choice Award, an award designated by IBMers for the best partner in North America. We're also a Tier 1 partner, which means we buy directly from IBM, one of 12 in the country. In addition to IBM, we do augment the practice with Microsoft and a couple other open source solutions, which I'll talk about in a moment. Unique about Micro is we have two business partner innovation centers, BPICs, here in North Jersey and also in Malvern, Pennsylvania. I'll go over the contents of those, but basically it's a very large environment of infrastructure and software free of use for our customers for POCs and for benchmarks and testing. We do an extensive amount of cloud work, as you can see from the slides. You can read these at your leisure. Lastly, what I'll call out on here, in order to grow, we have about 115 people here at MicroStrategies. We've doubled in the last couple of years. To do that, we established Resource One, a full-time staffing organization. We now have 7 full-time recruiters. What that means for our customers is that we do a lot of permanent and staff aug for our customers. So if you're looking for BI solution staffing, whether it's full-time or temporary, we'll help find those folks for you. And the BI team, in this case, would interview them so they get fully vetted before they reach your desks. And the same goes for our infrastructure or other types of resources you're looking for. On the next slide, you can see the two large organizations here at Micro, the Business Solutions Group, which we'll spend all of our time today talking about business intelligence and analytics. We also do a lot of enterprise content management, which is largely Alfresco and Autonomy, two open sources solutions, and it's if you look at the Martin Luther King Library, actually, that's put together with software that we provided, and we actually provided all the storage as well. And it's a very interesting site. You can see the actual documents from Dr. King's in his original handwriting. Portals and collaboration practice is a Microsoft SharePoint statement largely. We have 30 .NET and Java developers building out different solutions in this practice as well. And we also do digital voice recording and website design. The other side of the house is focused on our advanced infrastructure, which is an IBM statement exclusively, IBM Intel, IBM Unix, IBM storage, and IBM mainframes. Virtualization, consolidation, high-performance computing, replication, and DR. And we also start doing hosting now. So whether you're looking to host some DR on the infrastructure side, or if you're looking to do some hosting on your Cognos implementations, we could do that either solely as a hosted provider and or provide the hosting and the services surrounding it. So as little or as much as needed, we can provide to any of the tool sets we'll describe in the next slide. So the next slide talks about our BPIC. On the right-hand side, this is the software that our BI team focuses on. So from a visualization, obviously Cognos, SPSS, we have Netezza, we have Netezza replication installed. All these are installed in both locations. So if you're looking to augment some of your Cognos or BI data and or data warehouse augmentation, we can help walk you through some of the other options that are available in the marketplace, including DB2. We have Hadoop, IBM Hadoop distribution, big insights and streams we can demonstrate and help you understand, and various lifecycle management tools. There's about 400 VMs running in the environment for various testing, including Microsoft Hyper-V and Linux. And on the left is the various storage, Unix, and System X hardware that we talked about. Again, all these things are available at your leisure for free, and if we can't get your data out of your building, which is quite possible for many of you, we could stand up these servers in your environment and help you do some POCs as well and do the services around that to help you understand what this software can do for you. The next slide is a very quick overview of the BAO practice. Sandy Taken is the director of the team. Her and the rest of the team all come from the client side, like all of you guys. This is their first time on the non-customer side, so they spent their entire career implementing BI, working with all the tool sets. Now we're only selling IBM, but their skill sets are Business Object, MicroStrategy, SAP. They're all Oracle DBAs, and a very hardcore focus on data, so data analytics, data modeling, data architecture. So we're driven, or they're driven, based on a lot of implementations over their 20-plus year career, really understanding the requirements, what you're trying to achieve. Let's build a strong roadmap. Let's make sure we get buy-in. Let's understand the ROIs before we start making this endeavor, and then helping you as much or as little as needed on the implementation, the optimization, and the ongoing care and feeding of the systems. So if you're looking at Cognos now, we can obviously help you with that piece and integrate it into your environment with all your other tool sets, or if you have other tool sets surrounding it, we can help you as well. I believe that is my last slide. So what we can do now is do a quick survey. Again, finding out how many of you are currently using Cognos. If you could just click on this, hopefully everyone can see it. And if so, what version? This will enable myself and Christina to kind of tailor the remainder of the session around any particular nuances based on your questions. So we'll have the comfortable silence on the webinar of 25 seconds or 30 seconds while I answer these questions. Okay. Christina, I think it's all yours. I think we'll see results in a little bit. Oh, there we go. 82% of the folks are currently using Cognos, and dead even are using 10, and a couple on 8, and 1 or 2 folks probably run it on version 7. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Christina, I think the deck is well adjusted for that outcome, so the floor is yours.
Okay, terrific. All right, thank you. Good to know. So what we're going to be looking at today is what's new in the latest version of Cognos 10.2.1. And the agenda for today is we're going to be taking a look at an overview of what's been added, the exciting things that we're moving forward in terms of our vision for the product. We're going to look at the interactive visualizations, performance enhancements, extending the support, because as we all know, there's always new data sources out there, and then some of the additional innovations that have been added. So there's three prevailing themes that you're going to find throughout this particular version of the product. Excuse me. So what we're looking at is interactive visualization. In today's world, everybody's looking to do things more with the reporting. So we want to make sure that the way the reporting is being presented is in such a fashion that people can see the information very quickly, they can be interactive with it, and gain what they need at a speed where decisions can be made much faster. We're also looking at performance overall throughout the product. You'll find that there's many areas of improvement to the product where in the past people have said, particularly in some of the earlier versions of 8, that if we had increased speed, we'd be able to make our decisions faster. So what we've done is we've tried to look at all different aspects of the product set and where we can improve, and you'll see the numbers shortly. The other area that we're looking at is big data. And as we all know, big data is something that we hear a lot about in the marketplace, and we want to make sure that we're keeping up to date on what's supported and what people are trying to access. And as you can see there, and we'll get into more detail, the different specific types, but Hadoop is the one that everybody seems to hear a lot about. We also want to make sure that we're including things like real-time streaming of data, because there are a lot of organizations out there who rely very heavily on their either manufacturing equipment or just their preventive maintenance approach to their equipment, and they want to make sure that everything is done on time or in a preventative manner. So we're going to start with the interactive visualization. So this is something that's very new. It's on the market. It's called a RAVE engine, and it's Rapid Adaptive Visualization Engine. So right now with our active reports, in the previous versions, you were using the charts that were put into that particular version, and you were limited by the number of charts that were there and the types of interactions. So what we've done is we've taken a brand new approach, which essentially means that as the environment in your organization changes for the types of charts that you need, this engine allows you to add them on the fly. So we do have a user site called analyticszone.com, which some of you may or may not have heard of. But what we've done is we've set up where you will obtain your particular charting at that location instead of through the product. So that way, as the market shifts and as your business users' needs change, you have available to you on the fly what you need, as opposed to saying, well, when the next release comes out, we're going to get a few more charts that we can add to our repertoire. In this case, you don't have to wait. You just go and you download what you need and you add it to your current environment, which makes your business needs, your ability to manage your business needs much better. So we also wanted to make them much more interactive. So if you're someone who's used to a lot of things that you see on the web these days, you want to be able to press buttons and see something move or see an animation change, this is what we've allowed you to do in this particular version. So the other area that you're going to hear a lot about is performance improvement. So one of the things that we heard loud and clear from especially our version 8 customers is we need things to run faster, and we need them to run not just a little bit faster, but a lot faster. So what we've done is gone throughout the product to look at what are the areas that we can improve, not just, 1%, 2%. We've tried to, in some cases, up to 10%. And some of it was through changing the underlying architecture, and some of it was through just looking at how do we currently put things together to see if maybe we can make them go a little bit faster. So some of the areas that are very important is the active reports. So a number of users complained throughout history that when they put the active reports out there, the users, it would take them some time to get their active reports and download them to their mobile apps. And as a result, some of the users said, well, at this point, because it does take too long, we're just not going to use it. So we really focused a lot of effort on our active reports in this particular release, not only to compress, to change the underlying engine, but also to improve the performance. So you're going to see that in a little bit. The other thing that we've done is improving the bursting process. So a number of our customers are using the bursting process to batch send out reports either on a daily basis, weekly basis. It could also be with their mobile reports. And what we wanted to do is make sure that in that process we were able to send them out faster. So as you can see, there's a number of percentages there. So with our dynamic cubes, we're 70% less memory required, which is obviously a good thing. We reduced the number of dispatcher threads by 45%. So as you can see, there's a number of areas of improvement. And the other thing that we focused on is big data. So right now what we're hearing is a lot of buzzwords out there about how to use big data, how it can help you in your organization. So what we wanted to do was to make sure that you're in a position to use those data sources. So Hadoop, we have Cholera, Apache, Hortonworks, Amazon Web Services, Elastic MapReduce through your Hive adapter. So you can see there's a number of different options that we've put in place here. We also have analytic data stores such as DB2 and SAP HANA, which are a couple of the very popular ones. So with the SAP HANA, it's the JDBC connection. We also have real-time streaming, which allows you to optimize your access. And we can combine, basically, in a unique way, data in motion and at rest. So you tell us what type of data you want to access, and we're going to put you in a position to be successful. So the interactive visualizations, as I mentioned earlier, what we've done is a paradigm shift. So in the previous Cognos world, when you received a new release, if you're on a current release, then you go through the migration, you upgrade, and then at some point you get access to the new features. The way that we've redesigned the underlying engine for our active reports is we're using an engine now where it doesn't matter what version you're on. You just go to our analyticszone.com, you download the latest charting that you need for the Rave engine, and then you're able to be in a position where before you would say, well, when the next release comes out, we can give you that capability. Instead, now you can say, oh, you need that? Okay, well, let me go download it. Let me add it to my repertoire. And now I'm ready to go and able to service you as a business user. So what makes this better? Well, what makes it better is the way that we've incorporated the visualizations into our active report. It allows you a different experience. And one of the things that you can see is there's some examples here of how your charting might look. So you have your different heat maps, you've got your tree maps, and you see some other mapping down here. So what it's going to allow you to do is enhance your user experience. So it's not only that I'm seeing a flat chart, but I'm also seeing a chart that I can interact with, and it does animate. So it does include some ways to do custom visualization. So if you're in a position where you want it to look a particular way, you now are in more of a position to do so. You could have multiple prompts on a visualization, but the issue in the past was it would blow up the number of pages it had to render. So now that we've changed it to the Rave engine, what it does instead is it's rendering the information on the fly. So you have your data, you have the way you want it to be presented, and then it will on the fly render the particular format that it should look. So other types of activities that you can do, you can have multi-select, so for showing or hiding content. So example, if you have a line chart with 5 series lines, you can choose any combination of those lines to render. Another option you have is for aggregating data. So if you have a bar chart showing product sales, I can have another multi-select control with countries. So as I select countries, the bars change to show the aggregated total for that countries I've selected. You'll also see that it is going to be easier from a development perspective. So in the past, what we were doing was we were packaging the results into an MHT file. So what you would end up with is a file that would have multiple data decks. You'd set up a master detail relationship. And what we've done is we've changed that, so now you have a few things that you enter, and then the Rave engine will create what you need on the fly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you an example. Okay, so hopefully you can see the new example. So what we're looking at is a active report. It happens to be on my desktop. It is not on an iPad, so you won't see exactly the same type of interface. But you'll notice right away from a look and feel, it's very different than what you've seen in the past, and hopefully you'll see it's more pleasing. So you'll notice over here on the left, I have a number of buttons, and it looks like the first one is highlighted, and the rest of them, you may or may not think that you can use them, but if I click there, you'll notice it does allow me to go to the different types here. I'm just going to flip through them real quick. Okay, so now I'm back to home, and if you'll notice it's showing me essentially an assembly of all the different ones that are available. So what I'm going to do is click on the first one, and you'll notice it has given me a tree map. And in this case, it looks like personal accessories are doing the best in terms of volume of sales compared to, say, my camping equipment or even my outdoor protection. So if I want to look at something in particular in detail, I can click on, in this case, personal accessories. And what it did was it took me to the detail tab here. If I wanted to, I could just flip back to overview, flip back to detail. So what I have now is a bubble map or chart, and what it allows me to do is if I click on an individual bubble, which in this case is much easier to see, it will change the results on the right-hand side, and it doesn't just flash it or move it from side to side. It actually animates it so it flips it as it goes in front of you. So it's a lot nicer in the way it's appealing to the end user. And in this case, each bubble I click on, I get different information. So it's very animated. It's very quick, as you can see. And you'll notice I also have a chart here or a crosstab where I can go and see the individual numbers of something I'm looking at. So I can also go back to home, or I could click on one of these others. But what I'm going to do is click on the trend analysis. And as you can see, I've got my different years here. If I click on 2013, it's changing the lines. If I click on 2012, it changes them again. But you can see the animation that wasn't there before. I can also click on my expenses, and again, it will shift. And I can go back to 2013 and see how I'm trending on my expenses. And you'll notice on the right-hand side, it's focusing in on the particular area that I'm interested in. So right now, it's camping equipment, but I could happen to be the one who's interested in mountaineering equipment and go ahead and take a look at that. So it's much more interactive. It's much more animated. So now I'm going to go back to home, and I want to look at my employee overview. So again, I have options. I've got America, Central Europe, Southern Europe, Northern Europe, and Asia. And within that particular location, I have my individuals. And notice the size of the bubble is indicating information about them. So right now, I'm going to click on Dennis, and what happens is Dennis changes to show his salary and his performance, and down below, it shows the individual chart there. So if I click on this particular employee, Giselle, I can see her information. So again, the size of the bubble is indicating the size of the salary as well as their performance. And I can click on a different territory, and it gives me a different number of individuals and their information. So going back to the last one, back to home, now I have another type of chart. In this case, I'm going to click on camping equipment so I can see how it changes. And you'll notice that it changed the revenue, expenses, and profit as well as what you see down below. And with each one that I click on, I see how it changes the chart scaling potentially. It also changes the numbering as it goes. And then now my last one, performance ranking. So here I'm looking at all regions, but I could focus in on Americas, and it's telling me within Americas these are the individual areas of interest. And if I have something that's smaller, I may want to find out, well, what's going on with that particular product by country, what's the revenue, my expenses, and my margin. So you can see that you can put whatever information makes the most sense to your organization, but now when you're doing it, it's much more animated, and it shows the information more interactively. So that's some examples of how we've changed the way the visualization looks. So now what I'm going to focus on is performance. So we all appreciate performance in terms of what it can do for us. We don't always necessarily care how it did it. We just want to know that it's being done. So in this case, one of the areas that we really focused on in this release is the active reports. We had a number of issues that we were running into, so we decided to take a new look at it, rebuild it, and make sure that we have more compression, we have more memory optimization, and when you open and interact with the reports, you're going to have a different experience. In the past, what would happen is you would download the entire report, and then you'd be able to start doing things. So depending upon your internet speed, your access, you could end up taking a bit of time. So what we've done is not only compressed what's being passed, but we've also set it up so that you see the first page of your report displayed, and as a result of looking at that, you may want to see something else, and you could swipe to go to the next page, or you can click on a tab that says, well, just give me all the pages. Because we do have the situation where some people want to be in a position where they can disconnect and go. So if I'm someone who's about to catch a flight, I want to download the report and then go, and then I can be in a position to take a look at it disconnected. So this allows you the option of doing it in a fashion which is much faster. Okay, so other report improvements that we've made is we've tried to improve the report execution. The files are now cached in memory. The dispatcher can retrieve the files via the RSVP from memory. So your large files may spill over a little bit into disk, but what you're going to find is a much better usage. Using the existing RSVP memory cache, which at the moment is 40 megabytes, it can be configured so that you can use more of that space. If you are on a 32-bit architecture still at this point, you want to be careful with that because you may run out of physical memory. Your report rendering is now optimized for XSLT transformations, so that's used to produce your HTML output. Your burst reports can now be distributed across report servers and respects the processing capacity of the report server, so the number of configured batch processes that you have. It uses a chunking algorithm to determine how your burst keys are distributed across the capacity of your system. So it's taking more into account what is available and how to use it. Something that's really important is now we can use multiple threads, so you can take advantage of the way that your architecture has been set up. And it is an absolute affinity request. So for our batch processing, it's not actually about the size of the report, it's about how fast the report executes. So the key is jobs that have a lot of JSM or notification store traffic, a job which has a handful of reports which can run for minutes or hours won't see a lot of gain, but a job with lots of reports that run in seconds will. So your disk I/O memory requirements, you have no more memory should be needed as the 40 megabyte is per report server process. So it will scale out, not up. which has essentially been our message all along. You will see some performance gains in your HTML report execution. It should be 2 times to 6 times faster, depending upon what you're doing. So,
anyone has any questions? Sorry to interrupt you, Christina. Feel free to post them on the bottom right corner chat, and we'll again address them or table them till the end. Thanks.
Okay, performance. We also looked at the platform to enhance it. So for those of you who are using dynamic cubes, we've simplified the SQL query structure to make it faster. So you're going to have faster queries. You should have a smaller memory footprint as a result. We've improved the aggregate select logic, so you should have more efficient memory usage for data-intensive queries at large scales. You should see a 60% reduction for some reports, and you should see improved aggregation selection logic to see that you're using essentially queries at a lower cost. So from a dynamic query perspective, which is our next slide. Oh, no, not the wrong one. Okay, so from a configuration perspective, we do have some more optimal settings. So as an example, we've improved the system defaults. So your job service connections are from 4 to 20. Your Cognos graphic service connections are from a default of 4 to 50. And there are changes based on our internal testing. So most of our customers will see some differences, but you do need to be careful about limitations that you may have from your original settings. So you do want to revisit those settings. And we did actually have a customer who indicated that the initial run of a report built on a dynamic cube that took 20 to 15 seconds, but after the initial execution, it was down to split seconds. So you should see, again, improvement based on performance. So the other area that we're interested in helping our customers is the big data story. So you'll notice out there in the market, you hear a lot about it. So what we want to do is make sure that you're aware that we do support the different types, what they are, and how you can use them. So we do have the big data platform, which is your stream computing, your Hadoops, and your data warehouse. So we're adding to the type of data that you can use, and what we're finding is customers want to continue to add different types of data sources to their same decision-making process. So what we're doing is improving the performance of bringing those other data sources together so that when you do put it into your, say, Cognos Workspace for the decisions to be made, they can be done with much better performance, but also with the different types of data sources that are available. So as you can see, we have a company there, Mueller, Inc. So they're saying, in this case, they do generate a lot of data. They are now including the big data, and as a result, they have a much more complete picture. And part of the big data story is that you are in a position where you can use tools that allow you to use not only the structured data, but the non-structured data, and you can use Cognos as the presentation of that information. So what we're finding is businesses that include both have a much better vision on what is not only going on today, what's happened in the past, but what's going on in the future. So they can do more of a predictive approach to their business as opposed to a reactive approach. So some of the additional innovations we just want to mention. So from the Cognos mobile story, as you saw, we have a much better look and feel, and this is giving you some examples of how it would look. But the nice part is now I can personalize my background. So if I'm someone who, what you sent me is nice, but what I have I think is better, now I can change the background to be my own personal look and feel. I can arrange the contents, and I can rename the workspaces. So it's easy to use. You'll find you can connect to multiple servers. You can track your progress for your downloads. You can pause it. You can restart it. It also has some really nice embedded end-user how-to tools. So if you're someone that wants to take a look, it's not something you're familiar with, it does give you a lot of good information. So if you are someone who has an iPad and you want to take a look, you can go to the Apple Store and you can download the IBM Cognos mobile app. It does come with some really nice examples, so it gives you an idea of how would someone take a look at this and actually use it going forward. So some of the other options that we've added, you now have the HTML5 prompt. So it replaces the default BI prompts with a much more friendly approach. And that's applicable to things like your dates, your date times, your selects. And that does apply to both your iPad native app and your web app. So we also have auditing. So all activity done by your mobile users can now be tracked with your audit logs, which I think is very important if you're looking for adoption and you want to see how quickly people are adopting the technology. This allows you to do that. You do have some new audit reports that were created and deployed with your BI samples. We can support the HTML saved outputs to your native iPad app. We also have report fidelity, which is very important. So the mobile will display what the BI server renders. So you're in a position where formatting, coloring, all of that. So again, author once, use multiple places. And the really nice feature at the bottom there is zooming in on your active reports. So if you're accustomed to being able to look at things up close like you are with a lot of applications on your iPad, this allows you to do the same thing. From a Workspace and Workspace Advanced perspective, so under Cognos Workspace, we have an easy resize to fit content icon, which allows you to take a chart and fit it to the particular size that you're in. You can map your slider and select values to group items that are alike. So if I have year and I have year_1 in my slider list, I can group them together so it looks like they're one thing. One thing that's really nice is I can dynamically update that with information. So as an example, let's say that I have the years 2010, 2011, and 2012. And then when the year 2013 comes along, it will automatically update it so that it's taking the value of the data and applying it to your filter. So it's doing the update for you. You don't have to worry about doing that. You also have bulk widget updates, which is very important. So if I'm trying to update across dashboards, meaning multiple of them, by one dashboard or by a folder, I can do that now, which makes things much easier. From a Workspace Advanced perspective, I can now show values as percentage, share sets between reports. Now that's very important. So if I'm someone who groups data together differently than maybe the data has been grouped within my organization. So let's say that I'm tracking 5 things and the particular area of the way the data is grouped tracks 10 things. I can now set up a group of just 5 things and I can take that particular set between my reports. So now I have one thing that I'm interested in across many reports and I didn't have to do it multiple times. I just do it once and it's used across the board. So it makes it much easier when I'm trying to track as an individual what I'm interested in. I've expanded my text-based filtering options. They've simplified the grouping and improved your analysis after you put it into Excel. So from a Cognos Dynamic Cube perspective, we've made a number of improvements. We have for the modeling, auto-design enhancements, so you get much better hierarchies developed based on the data that you're bringing in. From a performance perspective, we've reduced the footprint, and we've been able to increase performance. We have a significant reduction in the memory needed to do that, so that makes your caching more efficient, but also work better for you. Your overall queries have been simplified, so they're much easier. Obviously, security is always important, so we have an ability to secure not only your dimensions, but your levels and your attributes. And we can leverage user-defined tables. So if you're an organization where in a lot of packages that you buy, within that package you identify in tables, these people have access to this particular data at this particular level, Now you can take advantage of that information and use it within your application. You also have dynamic security refresh, which is very important. So if you're adding things over time, this puts you in a position where the security is taking place as opposed to waiting for a refresh on your dynamic cube. The other thing which is really important, which is something that people like to use within their organization, is different semi-aggregate rules. So we've added new rules, first, last, current period, and some. And a lot of companies who are dealing with inventory control or we need information as of a particular point in time, this allows you to do that. We also have some performance improvements for DMR first run. So for those of you who have taken your relational data and dimensionally modeled it, now your first run is going to be much faster, and then obviously over time the data will come back faster within your reports. We've also done that with your TM1 data sources. So now you should see a much faster report display. We've also added new monitoring and management of your DQM memory usage through Cognos administration, which is important for those who are trying to track that. Another thing that's really nice is we have support for writing from your report specification using stored procedures. So if you are in some way trying to write back to your database, you're now in a position to do so. We've also added some data sources which are important to a lot of our user community. So we have DB2 for I, Sybase IQ, MySQL, and Postgres. Obviously, SAP HANA and Big Insights. So some additional administration features. So for those of you who are in the weeds, under our content management, we do have an external object store. So one of the complaints that we had from people was our content stores are getting too big. Part of it is we're saving files such as our PDFs or our Excels, either because we have to or because the user community has required it of us. So when I say have to, I mean it could be that you're an agency that reports to the government certain types of reports and you have to maintain those reports over time. So what we've done is we've put you in a position where instead of storing everything in a content store, you can actually take that information and push it off into an external store. And the types of stores you can use is a content manager, your FileNet, or your file system. So it allows you to take the bulk of what people are trying to store in your content store, put it somewhere else. So now when I'm doing my interactions with Cognos Connection, they're much faster, and it does allow you to get to the archived information very quickly, so I can use what I need quickly, but I can also get to the information I need to. My installations and deployments have been enhanced so that you can select only the languages required, which does reduce your footprint, which is nice. The big thing, which a number of customers have been asking for, is the deployment. So if I want to deploy my folders content only, it allows me much more options to take into account what the user community is doing, and also I can capture that information and back it up and restore it individually. So if I'm in a position where I don't want to lose that information, I now not only have the flexibility to just take care of the my folders, I don't have to back up and restore everything in order to get what I need. So it makes it a much more organized approach to my backups, my restores, and my deployments. Another big feature for those organizations that work with multiple customers in an environment, we have what we call multi-tenancy. So for those of you who haven't heard of it, multi-tenancy allows you to have multiple customers that you're working with, but I have an ID that identifies that particular customer in my environment. And now what we've done is, as a rule, people want to back up, restore. They want to be able to pull off individual information from a particular customer. You can do that now in a much easier fashion. You can also have where you have public data and you have private data. So you can take the private data along with the public data and back it up if you need to, or deploy it somewhere else. So if you're moving between environments, it makes it much easier for you to work with as an administrator. It's much more organized, and it'll lead to less confusion and errors when it comes to setting up environments as well as promoting environments. So the last thing that we want to talk about or just show you is some of the improved supported environments. So what we've done throughout history is as new technology comes into play, we make sure that we are supported in those environments to make sure that you as an organization can continue to take advantage of all the advancements, not only in Cognos, but in, say, your operating system, your data sources, and so on. So this is just a nice list that shows you what operating systems we've been adding, application servers. The data sources are probably the more impressive areas with the Apache Hive, the DB2 enhanced version 10.5, your Informix version 12. MySQL is a very popular option with a number of customers, so we have new improved access to that. Netezza, SAP HANA, new web server, IIS-8, your browsers. We always try to keep up with the technology improvements there. Your portals, and then obviously very important to a lot of customers, Excel 2013. You want to make sure you're supporting the latest versions. So at this point, that will conclude what we're going to talk about. We do have some performance improvements, but I believe we weren't going to cover these, but I guess we will real quick here. So this just shows you a few more of the metrics. So we have 3 times, 10 times, depending on what it is, with your active reports. We also have improvements with your metrics of your Cognos dynamic cubes, your bursting, your batch. These are things that we talked about earlier. And your disk I/O, Cognos dynamic query, and your platform overhead. And that is it. Are there any questions?
Any questions in the room? No? All right. Must have been a very thorough presentation. No question. Well, if you have any additional questions afterwards, feel free to email myself. I think it's on the invite, or Sue Anslow. And if you're looking for any hardware optimization or any reporting optimization, if you need any help upgrading from version to version or incorporating and optimizing Cognos with your larger data warehouse and big data story, feel free to give us a call. We look forward to working with you in the future. At this point, we conclude the call. Thank you.